Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cascadia Composer's Monday night presentation for October 10th. Tonight we have Liz Nedela here, who is a longtime member and an excellent volunteer who actually does a crucial part of organizing these presentations. And always very glad to have her do a presentation herself. And I'm very excited to hear her talk about her own experiences leading to composing for music across world cultures. So go ahead, take it away, Liz.
Okay. Well, I won't go into my bio, but basically, I'm very fond of writing music using experimental scales or modal scales, something different, and the pentatonic and what I call ethnic music or culture music. And structurally, I really enjoy counterpoint and well, just about and the quest for melody in any style of music. Now, as far as the meeting at hand, growing up in a cross-culture home, oh, I'm going to have to read this because there's so much I'll forget it. I lived a variety of viewpoints and language and music that to me was normal. That cross-cultural variety grew throughout my life. I became particularly fond of listening to languages just for the general aspects of them, the rise and fall of voice inflection and the melodic and rhythmic aspects. And I'm also captivated by the music of every culture I hear. But as a pianist, I didn't hear that variety in my studies. I didn't learn that a music that resembled it. When I played violin and cello, and when I began my career as a composer, I heard those sounds more, and I also learned how to create them. I gradually had formed my own compilation of what I call world music that reaches across cultures, even more inclusive than from my childhood days. I became drawn to and engrossed in the nationality, the language, the music of a wide variety of cultures, including the many regions of this country, of the United States. In this presentations, I will reintroduce some of those that I have mentioned in prior presentations, and then present my latest edition, The Sounds of Siam for piano, and adding puppetry and dance, and why I kept the title Siam instead of Thailand. As a precursor to the thoughts behind this topic, in general, according to Howard Gardner, an American developmental psychologist, there are several universal intelligences. In other words, the way people learn and acquire information. And music intelligence is one of them. That is a topic for a different presentation, but I believe music intelligence is prevalent in my approach to learning, and particularly to expressing myself. I have seen music intelligence at work throughout my family. This presentation is about that expression in regards to what I term cultural or ethnic music. My background.
No, and I saw it.
Hi, Christy. My background in music began long before I was born, and I will briefly share that. My mother's musical side of the family was extensively made of play-by-ear musicians with a few trained ones. One family memoir reads, the Moores were always happy and always making music. The older ones taught the younger ones, and everyone played any instrument they could get their hands on. They played for barn dances and gospel hours and radio, and they were recorded in the early 1900s. And I heard one of those records years ago, but I can't find it. I think some relative is hoarding it or something. I would like to share a picture of my grandmother's family and cousins, but you'll note they don't look happy here. The story goes as they had to sit too long for the photo, which they had to do in those days, but they were always cracking jokes as evidenced by some of the smirky and stifled grins. All right, I'm going to share my screen. And that's my family, my mother's family. My grandmother is here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. And then her daughter and her mother and her sister and my grandpa over here. My Uncle Homer was the card of the family and his brother. And the rest of them are cousins. So anyway, this is my family. I enjoyed that part of my genealogy throughout my life, playing piano and a couple other instruments by ear until about age 4. And my parents decided that I had to learn the right way. And piano lessons started. My father's side of the family was somewhat similar, but in a different culture, and more about that later. Before I get to the piece I want to showcase this evening, I want to present a little background into endeavors to compose across cultures. I've enjoyed writing music from my own heritage, but also that of other cultures. And through the years, as a musician and teacher composer, I saw the need for recognition of culture in music, especially here on the West Coast, where there is a very large multicultural population. But there are limitations for students to play multicultural music, especially piano students who are isolated by nature of the instrument, and they study mainly music of Western Europe. Some of the music piano students learn are adaptations from other cultures in ways that are actually disrespectful. I didn't know this until recently. In other words, Mozart's Rondo alla Turca and Debussy's Collywog Cakewalk. I played them, I loved them, I taught them. But that's a topic for another presentation. But in general, defense of those misinterpretations leans towards the fact that few composers and general public really had no firsthand experience with other cultures, so they didn't realize how respectful they were being. Well, now that line of reasoning must be abandoned because we have the internet. We have no excuse. But we must be respectful and portray accurately the music of other cultures. And as a background, I would like to share some of the music as precursors to this piece that I'm going to feature. I will give just a brief description of them, but links can be found on YouTube Cascadia or Liz Nedela, YouTube Liz Nedela, or my website, nedelamusic.com. Or contact me and I'll be glad to give you a score and an MP3. By the way, at the end of this presentation, I'll give a list of the links that I'm going to use during this presentation. The first piece I'd like to mention is a recent one for me a couple of years ago, The Tone Portrait of Poland. It's a piano quintet. It illustrates the 5 national dances of Poland. It was commissioned by the Portland Polish Society to celebrate their centennial. I use 5 instruments playing 5 national dances. Each instrument has a melody and accompaniment, symbolizing the importance of individuality, independence, and unity, working towards a united and free Poland. And by the way, interdependence and sharing of melody and accompaniment is a practice I carry throughout my compositions. I really think that's important, aside from the fact that performers like it. Nobody likes to play pa all the time. The next piece I'd like to briefly discuss is a presentation in itself. Tone Portraits of Croatia, I wrote for orchestra. And it's a compilation of folk songs and dances of Croatia in tamburica style. I also arranged it for organ and for my brother's bluegrass band. I played the organ and his band played for my father's memorial. My father played tamburica when he was young. Tamburica music is the beginning of my own cross-culture experience. Over the years, I have attended weddings and countless tamburica concerts and festivals, mostly by the traveling teams from Duquesne University from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. For me, this was normal, and I loved it. I'm going to show you now the picture of what a tamburica orchestra is. There's a tamburica orchestra, the preservation of Croatian folk music. I asked my father, because I never heard him play tamburica, what instrument did you say? And he said, why, all of them. Zagreb is where he was born, and he was 3 years old when his family came here. But this paragraph right here leads into the piece I'm going to talk about tonight. Learning to play the tamburica was passed down from one generation to the next. Every village had their share of musicians who performed at every festive occasion. The formation of tamburica groups began in Baca in the first half of the 19th century. Now, I'd like to play an example of what a tamburica orchestra sounds like. By the way, my orchestral arrangement was for our standard orchestra, not for Tamburiza orchestra. Oh, this could be my father. He was actually played when he was growing up in this country until he was about 18 or 19, when he became the sole support of the family. The Depression hit, Grandpa died, all that happened. But anyway, I would like to play this link, and it shows a performance of my favorite Croatian folk song, Rosika Sombila.
New breaking scientific research shows that there's a common vegetable that spikes diabetes symptoms.
Rožica sem bila, rožica večne, dok mi leto mine, ja već cvela rožica sem bila, rožica večne.
Always followed by Now, how about that, audience? That's every time I was at anything, any performance, it was that kind of audience. Very active also, singing and clapping and dancing and everything. And that's the Tamburiza Orchestra from Detroit. I've heard them many times. We almost hired them for my father's memorial, but we decided to do it ourselves instead. Anyway, that's the Rosika Sembila. Now, the next piece I'd like to talk about that you can also find on YouTube through Cascadia or my site is Madia for flute and cello. It portrays my grandmother's adjustment to the US from Croatia. It's in Tamburiza style, but it doesn't use those instruments. It uses flute and cello. An abridged version was performed at a Crazy Jane Cascadia concert, but it was originally written for Women's History Month in Billings, Montana in 1986. My grandmother lived with us and spoke only Croatian during the time I knew her. She knew how to speak English, but by that time she had gotten really stubborn and only spoke Croatian. My father insisted that only English be spoken in our house, so I never learned how to speak it. But Grandma refused to speak English, and we had a communication from the heart somehow. I really loved her. I loved hearing her talk, and somehow I always understood her. Many years after she died, I heard an old woman speaking Croatian at a festival, and I was shocked at the effect it had on me. The language came back to me, and I loved listening to it. And I even understood the things she was saying. I don't know how, but anyway. Now, the next piece I want to talk about that I wrote is the US visited the United States. It's a string quartet, and I've also transcribed it for orchestra, and it's 5 movements. It's been performed several times in either one at a time or with the string quartet, or the orchestra has not been performed. That version has not been performed yet. An orchestra in Boston, though, commissioned an arrangement for the last movement, the Highway 101. Each movement portrays a different area of the United States in rhythmic, varied tonality and style with each movement. And I entitled them the North, South, East Coast, Great Plains, and West Coast, and each has a subtitle also. But again, if you can contact me if you would like recordings. The next one I'd like to talk about is She Who Watches. It's for viola, cello, wood flute, bass drum, and wood blocks. This is particularly touching to me because living in this area, it portrays a version of the Chinook story, the legend of Chief Salagalo. It was part of a Cascadia concert, and the theme was Our Waters, Big River to the Pacific, talking about the Columbia. And it was in 2018, and you can find it on YouTube. And other than that, I've written a lot of piano music, motor music, octotonic blues, a 2-piano piece, a pentatonic about US regions, solos, duets, duos, challenges for piano using unusual scales, rhythms, harmonic structure. I just wanted to give pianists and a lot of my students, I have to put up with this, but some different experiences in learning and in their studies. So I've also written several pieces for orchestras from elementary to professional orchestra depicting American cultures. But the most recent I'm going to present tonight is the Sounds of Siam for piano. I'm going to stop share for a minute here. It's an in good hand collaboration with an intermediate pianist in Portland. And it's turned into a whole world for me. You'll see in a minute. And I'm going to then leave till the last. Why the title of Siam, Sounds of Siam? Why not Sounds of Thailand? I'll tell you in a minute. This piece is a collaboration with Ario, who is an intermediate, kind of an upper intermediate piano student. And we met online on Zoom, Ario and his mom and me. And I asked, what are your interests in music? And because he was interested in modal music and improvisation, the conversation gradually evolved to my passion, music of other cultures, and the topic of Thailand came up. And this is his mother's birth country. At that time, I was studying music of India, and I was really passionate about writing some piano music of India. And I suggested a piano music in that style, especially because I thought it's part of the historic music of Thailand. The conversation grew into, but we have our own music, and it is different from that of India. Can you write music about Thailand? I said I would try, but I didn't know anything about the music of Thailand at that point. But I would need to do a thorough study first. We all three became excited about it, and Ario had never played anything resembling music of Thailand, and he quickly adapted to the idea. He's a very talented little guy, I tell you. I mean, big guy. Even came up with scenarios then of how it would be performed. Well, I quickly learned there's no printed music of classic Thai music. There are some attempts to notate it, but I found it undecipherable. I learned more by listening and watching it being performed. It was all taught by rote through generations, beginning with young children and using ancient instruments.
Hey, Dennis. I'm here to check. Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Hi. Through generations of young children using ancient instruments, and I had never heard any of it before this project. I was captivated by it. I immediately began to convert some of it in my mind as I listened. Some of it, I converted it to piano in my mind, but quite frankly, I honestly wondered if it would sound good or if it would sound like anything at all. How to portray microtonal flutes and voice, drums, cymbals that were tiny ching to giant gongs, and a national favorite, the wooden boat-shaped xylophone type mallet instrument, the renat. There were high renats and low renats. The renat players are highly competitive with competitions that are mind-blowing, and I have to share one. Sorry for these ads. I tried to end them, but I couldn't.
With the comfort of Lazy Boy furniture, this is more than just a room.
2 ads.
Sometimes
stop it there. As you can see, it gets really intense.
Liz, just to note, I wasn't sure. I didn't want to interrupt the sound of it. It was wonderful, but just you weren't sharing your screen, so I think we heard the audio, but not the video.
Oh,
Of that.
shoot,
Just to let
shoot.
you know.
Oh, that's right. Did you see my the screen share before in the other ones?
Yeah, I saw everything else you've done a screen share for.
Okay. Let me just show you that then, okay? And I've played just a little bit of it because it just is phenomenal to see. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Oh, shoot. I clicked that thing to stop ads. Oh,
Turn YouTube.
okay. I'm sorry. I will start that again. I had this all so well organized. Okay. I'm going to speed it up. Notice the accompaniment is drum and the chain.
แน่นหลายขีดติดไม่มีสติให้ดูอย่างนี้แน่
Okay, I'll stop that. And again, I'll have a link so that you can see that. I have to say something about these videos. For every video I'm showing you, I must have seen a dozen in that particular style of whatever I'm showing you. It's been the most fun music class that I have ever attended. And there are so many questions yet, like why is one dressed in black and why is one in white? And there's still so many questions that I would like to pursue. Okay, now next I'd like to talk about all the music is improvisational. The ensembles were amazingly integrated and played by musicians that were intricately trained and highly skilled from the time they were children, young children. They literally breathe together and the result is amazing. I will share the Thai Puppet Orchestra. Notice that the musicians listen intently to each other and they, as they share their music. This orchestra, I will explain a little bit more. There are several orchestras and this one is played mostly for I'll stop there. And you can hear the melody if you listen really closely. Next, I would like to show you another instrument. So far, there are no winds yet. One of the most important wind instruments is called the pianist. It's a quadruple reed oboe, and it announces a piece. The first time I heard this, I was shocked by the sound. I was just, whoa, like it was a loud blast announcing the ensemble or puppet show. But now, I've quickly learned to really like it and listen for it. And it's a very, very important to the ensemble. I'm going to show you one of the tempo pieces called, and it's the Harvest Song. I'm sorry, get it here. And it's opened by the pianist. Okay, I'm going to stop that. The next wind instrument that I would like to share with you is the Watt, W-O-T, pronounced more like a W-O-D. It's a Thai circular panpipe. We all know the pan instrument that the legendary Pan plays, but this is like that, only it's like melted and rounded, and it played by moving it around in circles. I'd like to just illustrate that and then show it how it is used in the ensemble. Oh, these
Wait! Did you download?
and that's one of the many folk songs. Now, the next the video I'd like to show you is actually a contemporary style. But the reason I like it, and I try to stay away from all the contemporary music because they were actually not, they were totally getting away from the classic style of music of Siam and Thailand. But this one I liked because they were dressed in classic attire, and they use the instruments, but you can see they have a rock beat, but they have the dancers. But the reason I like this is, well, for a number of reasons, but it does have the Watt solo. And I'm going to open it and then skip to the Watt solo. and they label it traditional Thai music. It's a folk song. In this style, bouncing riffs, chords, there's the one, the pin guitar, this is an organ. Okay, I'm going to scoot ahead. Okay, and I'll stop there. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go into a very in-depth explanation of the music of Thailand. I will briefly touch on that in a minute. But there's a growing interest worldwide for this music, and instruments can even be purchased on Amazon. I'm going to share a Wikipedia link for in-depth study. There's a lot of information, including numerous performances. One fun thing that I found as I was searching is that there are comments in every video I saw, the comments and below, and people were asking the same thing and asking the performers, is it okay? Can I use this music? Is this music copyrighted? And they'd say, no, you can use this. This is folk song. And I got some answers back, and it was in Thai translated. I just thought that was so cool. And the fact that I could contact them and they answered me right away. Okay, now this is the Wikipedia link. Wikipedia, here it is. I'm showing you this and you can read it on your own, but just to illustrate the different types of orchestras, and this is the only one that I have featured in my music and in this presentation is Pipat. And all of the others, you can read what they are. They list all of the instruments. This one, this organ, that's a Cayenne player, and this that I didn't use in my piece, but it was in the contemporary piece. Then there's an arrival of Western music, but look, using Western instruments. And then there's, again, going down to the influence of pop and rock and so on and so forth. And then there's strings. I didn't touch on any strings. That's one of my next goals. And then there's heavy metal and even hip hop in India and indie. So I guess just about every style, every culture has a Western influence, which is nice. But I'd like to keep their music intact too. So after doing all the extensive research on the music of Thailand and composing this piece, Aryo's grandfather commented, "This is the old style of music of my country, portraying the old instruments. Can you rename it for Siam? It is the original name of my country." And I said, of course. And I forgot to mention, as I was doing this, I found this link and that link, and I shared it with the family. And I've had feedback from Aryo's grandfather and from his mother and grandmother. And it was just so fun working together with Aryo and his family to write this music, to learn about this music. So now, next, I would like to share the program notes of the score And the instrument directory of the score of this piece that I'm going to feature. And hold on, I will get rid of this screen. Okay, oh, hold on just a second. I'm going to stop screen sharing and go back. Ah, all right. I have to quit this Chrome. Okay. All right. And I will take out the tambourines. And next, I would like to share the instruments that I have in my piece, the Sounds of Siam. Now, I have a habit of when I write music, I put in structural notes and anything that I can to help the student know what, or the player, performer, whether it's a student or a professional, to know where I'm coming from, what I mean. So this is the Renat EK, the high xylophone. I watched videos of how this is made, and it's amazing. This is the low xylophone, the Renat Damlek, and you saw those in one of the videos. This is the Watt, the circular pan flute, and this is the pine, the oboe, the quadruple reed oboe. The Finn three-string guitar, the Ching cymbals, and the Klan Yo drum. Now, the music practices of Thailand. The music is in 2/4 time. It's rhythmic, steady beats, easily subdivided. It's stressed the measure N beats. The introductory beats are 4 quarter notes for the pieces and section, as you heard it, bam, 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 and then they start a section or a piece. The Ching is a smaller finger cymbals, usually repetitiously signifies beat 2. In my piece, I use them at the end of sections. It's a pentatonic scale with sparse tonality accompaniment. The voicing is generally in the treble with bass and drum accompaniment. There are many contrasts in the sound among the instruments with much interaction, sometimes dissonant and counterpuntal. Always improvisational, it's very close, tight interaction among the ensemble. So these are the instruments that I will portray in my piece. The styles of music, notice it's very melodic. No matter what's going on, you can hear that melody. It's improvisational and heavily ornamented, highly interactive. It's exotic, meaning that it is classic and dramatic, with short melodies of varied repetitions, traditional, mixed contemporary style with traditional instruments, competitive interaction among the instruments, especially the xylophone. And the ensemble, again, is introduced by loud blasts, particularly of the pine and oboe and the drum. Now I would like to share the score for my piece. And I'm going to play the MP3. I don't usually do this. It's the recording of my Sibelius score. But I really am doing it this way to show you the bare bones of it. I mean, you have some interpretation of it, but since it's such a different style, and notice that I write a lot of instructions in my music. There's a Sound of Siam. Next, I would like to play Ario's version, have him play it. Now, you'll notice, and those of you who are pianists, that tremolos are a really advanced technique. And so I ran the risk of using those, but I just couldn't resist it. They just were so representative of the Renats. So I did a variation, and I published this with the piece because most students will not have that tremolo experience yet. So this is the version that was played by Ario. And I would like to now I just got a new recording of Ario. I don't see it in my list here, I'm sorry. So I'm going to show the one that we recorded, that my husband recorded on his phone. And it's on my YouTube, so it's not very clear.
This afternoon, I will be playing for you Sounds of Siam by Nedela. This piece is inspired by classical Thai instruments. My dad will be playing the gong yao drums. My sister, Victoria, will be playing the twin chop cymbals, which are used to keep the Thai classical dancers on beat. And I will be playing from a High Xylophone. I will support these instruments throughout the piano.
Now he goes on to give a little demonstration, but I don't think we're going to have time to hear it all. And I would like to get to his performance because I have a couple other things I want to share with you. Hear how he makes this piece come alive. I'm sure you will agree with me that he really made that piece come alive. He's a fantastic young performer for sure. I'd like to move on because there are a couple other things I would like to portray. One is my next project is, well, I just finished it, is the music of puppetry. I would like to also delve into strings and dance. And then I've also already mapped in my head and a little bit on paper and our own traditional orchestral arrangement of this and other music. I would like to talk about the puppetry. It's a very important aspect of Siam and Thailand. And the dance and the puppetry go hand in hand. There are mainly, three types of puppetry. The shadow puppets, and then puppet handlers are dancers manipulating what we would call marionette type puppets, and then human puppets. That's all based on Khon puppetry, Khon, Khon, and it warrants a whole study in itself. And I'd like to just briefly show you a video of the Khon puppetry, the Khon mask. All of the well, I'll just bring that up first before I say. Okay. And again, this is a short portion of this. Absolutely amazing.
These ones were made by my grandfather around the time of King Rama VI. He was making them before the Second World War. When I was a boy, my father would take me to my grandfather's place. I'd always see my grandparents making corn masks. As a child, I thought they were so beautiful. I'd play with them. I was just a kid. I never thought I'd grow up to actually make them myself. I had more of a background in drawing, such as Thai designs and such, but when I started sketching corn masks, I had to start all over again. The first step is covering the head in sa paper and flour paste. I follow the ancient ways every step of the process. If I don't, then it all goes wrong. If I concentrate and put all my effort into it, the mask comes out looking beautiful. Each piece reflects the craftsman who made it, what kind of person he is and how he works. According to traditional methods, there are 4 types of corn masks for the yak character. The first we call a grinning mouth and crocodile eyes, the second grinning mouth and wide eyes, the third a closed mouth and crocodile eyes, and the fourth closed mouth and wide eyes. Like this mask, the mask of Prapilab, this is what we call a grinning mouth, and the eyes are crocodile, which means they're half open like someone who's angry about something. For monkey masks, there are only 2 types, open-mouthed and closed-mouthed, but the eyes are wide open for both. This part of the process is making a mold paste from crack.
I'm going to stop there, and I just invite you to watch all of it. It's just absolutely amazing. He goes on to explain that some of the puppetry, some of the dancers actually wear the mask. Others wear makeup to illustrate the mask. But then others just have the expression on their face. The clip I'm going to show you is a puppet show where there are marionette type puppets, and there are dancers manipulating, or puppet handlers manipulating them, and they have an expression on their face. There are just a few people, organizations who keep this puppetry alive, and one is the organization I'm going to show you. All the puppetry is based on the Ramanujan story. It's derived from the Buddhist Ramekian. In the interest of time, I'll just let you Google it. But basically, it's a good triumphing over evil. I got Google in my brain. And the puppet enactment is King Rama reuniting with his wife, who had been kidnapped by the king of demons. It has become a somewhat comical rendition of back and forth interaction by Rama and his wife. But even though it's comical, it's still highly regarded and respected. There are organizations that keep it alive, and this Joe Louis Puppet Theater is one of them. I'd like to show you this next clip of one of my favorite shows. You listen for the instruments now that you know them, now that you've had your music lesson of Thai instruments. Watch the puppet masters, their moves and their expressions. There are also renditions of them wearing Koan masks, if you can imagine. But I've seen them on the video, and they can see and they move around. And in this one, we have a singer. And this goes through my mind always. Hear the singer telling them the story. At first, King Rama is excited about finding his wife. However, she is angry because it took him so long to find her, and she rejects him. And he rejects her because it's been so long with the evil king, and she shouldn't return to him. But they end up accepting each other, and all ends well. When I watch this, I love it, but I think that the audience really doesn't appreciate what went into this. And it's just, the background, everything is amazing. Okay, I better get on to this rendition. bees chased her away. In this particular show, they go on to do some audience interaction, and because the audience is interested in his puppets and so on. So I won't go into that now. But what I'd like to do now is to show you my piece, this puppet. Sorry. All right. Okay. I can't tell you how many times I have practiced this and it still never comes out. Okay, this is Puppets of Siam for piano, based on the piece that we just saw. And of course, that will have a lot of instruction in the piece also. In closing, I'd like to switch gears a little bit. Because of current emphasis on diversity, music diversity has become forefront in music education and performance, as we all know. I have attended several presentations of how to achieve that diversity, particularly within piano study, and I strive to include that in my compositions. So I searched out how educators and adjudications are using it, especially in piano. This is yet another topic and currently emphasized by MTNA, the Music Teachers National Association, throughout all of their divisions and local chapters, particularly by Leah Claiborne of Ebony Music. She gives extensive presentations on a vast collection by music of Black performers. But I find these following quotes that she made very, very helpful. She says, "It is our hope that at MTNA and Ebony Music, that students will bring more diverse music literature to the competition stages, and adjudicators must be prepared to help give scholarly critiques for their music presented. Claiborne's webinar proceeds to evaluate many pieces and also shares some of the remarks that adjudicators gave. I won't even repeat them. But she then, this purpose of this particular webinar was to help adjudicators to see how to evaluate these pieces. She shares several comments about what they said, but she emphasizes that the characteristics used for adjudication are the same for any music of any composers. Whether they're old, established, new, old, not established, any composers. In other words, for piano, pedaling, voicing, balancing, knowledge of the music and style, regards to architecture, tonality, interpretations as directed by the composer. In other words, what's ever in the score, and that's what they adjudicate, what's ever in the score. She emphasizes that all music holds these aspects and are similar regardless of the composer or any style of music. The composer directs the performer to, quote, live the character of the piece, to live the part, to create a sound design, those are Leah's words. These are the aspects we expect from a performance and that we expect will be evaluated by the adjudicator. Now, getting back to Ario, I'm sure you will agree that his performance had all of those aspects and more, and he literally brought that piece to life. Claiborne closes with this, and I will allow the opportunity to think differently about music. Allow the opportunity to think differently about music. I try to keep that in mind when I write music of any kind, but particularly across cultures. That's it, folks. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much. Any questions, comments, anything?
Thanks, Liz. That was really interesting. I saw a number of instruments I've never seen before or heard before. So that in itself is a gold mine, just to hear different musics from different instruments like that. That first orchestra that you showed that looked like it was all varieties of a plucked string instrument, similar to guitar.
Yes.
Like, were there any wind instruments in there at all, or anything except the plucked instruments, or the whole orchestra is plucked instruments?
All of it is the string instruments, the different styles of almost like balalaika, excuse me. And they're all, that's a tamburitsa style, is all string. I've had arrangements of violin and cello, and also the flute and cello, and then when my orchestral arrangement of the folk song, there were a lot of folk songs, not just the Rosica and the other ones, is the traditional orchestra. And I hope to get that performed sometime. But it's challenging because like when I did the arrangement for my father's memorial, I was on organ. I had the easy part. But my brother's bluegrass band, my brother's a retired science teacher, and he refuses to learn how to read music. But he's been recorded and he's been published, and he is a bluegrass singer. But his bluegrass band just had such a difficult time grasping that style because it is a different style. It sounds so easy, but it's not. And it's just like a lot of the music of Thailand. It sounds and it looks so easy only because those people, those performers have been at it all of their lives, those dancers with the puppets, all of their lives. Ario's grandmother teaches the dance, and he and his sister both dance. I think that's amazing. My dear father wouldn't allow us to participate, even though we went to many concerts, and I continued to go to concerts as I grew up and took my family, my kids, they learned how to, but we didn't know the language. My dad says, only English in our house. We're Americans. And as far as music, I went to the symphony when I was 2 years old. He loved the symphony, and we all were exposed to all kinds of music. He played the piano. He played classical piano. But anyway, I could go on and on about that. The styles of music. When I was growing up, and my first piano lessons at 4, I was playing already by ear. And my teacher gave my mother a strict rule: don't let her play anything unless she's reading the music. And my mother has told that story. That was the most difficult aspect of her raising a child, was following through with that. And she would patiently have me read the music, and I was like this, she says. And she would go after our practice session. She said she'd go to her bedroom, she'd stand at her bed, and she'd go, just flop down on her bed and just sleep for a while. But so I didn't want to have that same thing happen to my piano students, and I encouraged them to make up music from the very first lesson, experiment with the black keys and make up music. But I also was a stickler on learning everything. And the proof is in the pudding. I've had some very successful students. But anyway, I could go on and on. Any other comments or questions or anything? Adam.
Yeah, I was just thinking, it's been a while since I've done any posts for the composer for every country blog, but I was reminded of that. And one thing that I've been struck by is, there's often a lot of talk about having a more diverse repertoire in classical music. And I was thinking about just the classical canon and how it's not even diverse in terms of Europe. Right, maybe like 3 countries, Spain if you're lucky. And so I really appreciate like bringing up these other countries and your own background in Croatia, which is not often thought of in these kinds of discussions. There's I was very surprised just how much different and unique styles of music there were across even just Europe. And so I just wanted to voice my appreciation for you bringing this subject and your own unique background to it as well.
Yes, one of the things that was always been my pet peeves is how modal music is interpreted, especially by piano students. It's not modal music anymore. So that was my goal in writing, is to keep it in the mode. And it's not going to be 1-4-1-5-1. It's not going to be 1-1-1-5. It's going to be so different. So one of the things that I did when I did my master's in composition, which much later in my life, I'd been composing and doing a whole lot of things before that, was when I did my music history classes, I really didn't like the topics. And so I had permission to do music of Eastern Europe. Well, that's a broad subject. And then my focus was to wind around to the tamburiza. And that's when I did the arrangement of tamburiza, the Rosica Zambila for violin and cello. And that was performed. And the kids, they were young adults, but for me, they were kids. I was the old lady there, but they did a fantastic job. And I recorded it. I had it on a cassette tape. And I went to my father. This was from Montana to Michigan, and he was had the beginnings of his time in the assisted living. That he was 96 years old then. And I played it, and he said, "Yes, you got it. Yes." And that to me meant anything, everything more than any A I could have ever gotten or any other. Yeah, really. Yes. And that's how my father taught, like this. You know, slowly, emphatically. And when my father did that, it's like anybody in the room, no matter how big the room was, stopped and it was dead quiet. And he would just say his few words. Anyway, he's a really special man. But yeah, Adam, I'm great, and I like your posts. I really do. So anyway, I get off on these topics. Anybody else like to say something?
Well, thank you, Liz. I enjoyed hearing. It was really refreshing to hear music from other countries and other types of music that we don't hear very often.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. I appreciate it. Okay, Jan. Hi, Ario.
You're sorry. But anyway, Liz, thank you so much. And that not only, I really lucked out because when I asked you to write something for Ario, I didn't know it was going to turn out like this. I just asked you because I respected you as a composer. But and tonight was wonderful because you know, we've been living with this all summer, and I didn't have this background that you have, so I appreciate it very much.
Oh yes, and when you did ask me and you showed me the recordings of Ario's a couple of pieces that he did, I thought, oh boy, he could do anything. And it's right. So Ario, how are you doing? You were at another kind of workshop tonight, huh?
Yeah, but thank you for letting me be involved with this piece, and I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you very much. I just really appreciate it. Every time I see you, you look older. It's like my grandchildren. They just like they're way tall and they just look older. But thank you very much. Are you going to try the puppetry one?
Yes.
You know, that's about how do you make the microtonal sound, and especially from the pianist instrument. And in piano, you know, we can't do microtonal. We can't. I would love to get my hands on a one that is quarter tone. Has anyone ever played a quarter tone piano? Have you seen one? I've seen pictures, but that's it. But the only thing I could do is put a room, you know, put your hand in a chromatic kind of thing and do this and that. And I think it's effective. I think it works. And Ario was just great about doing anything I gave him. It was just wonderful. He almost broke his arm trying to do the tremolos. We have to wait maybe next year. But the other one was just the other way was worked just fine too. So okay, and I see Greg is leaving. Bye, Greg. And anybody else have anything to say? Any suggestions, or you want to go to a tambourine festival? I haven't seen any lately. You know, with the pandemic, I can always find them no matter where I live. There's the Croatians, and Serbians too. The Serbians say the tambourines is their music, but we know. Anyway, but anyway, it's a fantastic experience. My uncle always wanted me to go to Duquesne University in Pennsylvania, and my father says no. You be American, we are in America. You go to American school. Okay? Right, Dad? But he had his reasons. Well, okay, I better sign off because I see it's just about 9 o'clock. And thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I just really appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
And
Liz,
oh, yes.
Liz, see my comments in the chat.
Okay, yes, I'll do that. Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye, everyone.